Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I may welcome you to today's Foodstar webinar, which is about marketing strategies, the importance of labeling and trust in the supply chain. This lecture is brought to you via the project EU Foodstar, the European Food Studies and Training Alliance. Excuse me. Today's presenter is Francisco Rocha. My name is Christine Grabler. I may be the moderator of this afternoon. I'm located in Vienna and working in LVA since 1999. I'm a graduated food technologist and working in the field of innovation management. LVA is an institute for knowledge transfer. We are doing vocational training and we give support for process and product development in the Austrian food sector. It is my pleasure to guide you through this afternoon's lecture, and I may make you acquainted with some functionalities of the webinar tool first. The Foodstar project will also be introduced by me. Then it will be followed by the presentation of Mr. Rocha. You will have the possibility to post questions written during the presentation. It can also be done oral by hand raising, and an evaluation will follow by email. So this is the control panel as it is presented on your screen. The field below is a text field where you can post your questions. I really recommend to do the questioning in written form. It is, from experience, better to understand a written question. This question will be forwarded to me, and I will be able to then forward it to the lecturer, who will be able to give you an answer after his lecture. You can minimize the panel in order to see the whole presentation with this arrow. This is the full screen icon. This button is serving as a virtual hand raiser. When you click this button, I get the notification that you raise your hand and I can get to you in written chat. So if you want to pull my attention to you, please use this raise hand button. I will then refer to you in written form. This is the icon for the mic. During the session, all micros are muted. It is obvious that we have to mute the micros of the attendees because it would be too much feedback during the lecture. And I would also recommend not to open it for oral questions. I would recommend questions written because it's much better and the audio quality is often a bit poor. The session will be recorded, so you can get back to this lecture anytime via the project website of EU Foodstar. And this is a short introduction about the Foodstar project, about the contents. The full title is European Food Studies and Training Alliance. It's an Erasmus Plus Knowledge Alliance project, and it started in January 2015. Coordinator is Gerhard Schleining. He's located at the University of Natural Resources in Vienna, Austria. What is the vision of EU Foodstar? We see knowledge about food at universities who are forwarding them to their students in food studies. But we also see practical knowledge partly hidden in food industry, which has a more practical approach. So you see university knowledge is more focused on research, is more focused on publishable results, while food industry is more interested in practical solutions, in quick solutions, and in protection of intellectual property. So there is a gap between these two approaches, which EU Foodstar wishes to close. Bringing together universities and food industry is one of the goals of the Foodstar project. And how do we want to achieve this goal? We want to establish long-term partnerships on European level and want to offer services with a low threshold so that they are used by a large number of stakeholders. This map shows the countries involved in the European Foodstar project. 7 universities, 3 food companies, and 11 multiplying institutes and training providers are involved. Among the universities are, of course, the BOKU, which is the coordinative institute, but also AgroParisTech, IPC, UCP, the University of Hohenheim, the University of Leeds, and the University of Teramo. The food companies involved are from Portugal, Frulact, then Spain-based GB Foods, and also Nestlé from Switzerland is associated with the project. Multipliers and training providers are 11 involved in the project. Lebensmittelversuchsanstalt, LVA is one of them. The multipliers are rather to industry, while IFA is targeting teachers. EFOST is also industry-based, also SPES, which is a federation of food associations in Europe, and Eroica is a network of students. Foodstar does not only want to be a virtual network, but wants to offer physical hubs. Those physical hubs are located all over Europe, for example, in Hohenheim, also in Vienna. So we want to offer a physical service and be there for the stakeholders physically. We are open for suggestions, not only for the webinars, but also for other project contents. Please refer to us via office@iseki-food.net. So now it's time to give you a short introduction about our today's speaker. It's Mr. Francisco Rocha. He is a consultant at SPI in Portugal and is experienced with the Chinese market and has a lot to do with international relationships, was also involved in international research programs like the 7th Framework Program and Horizon 2020. His fields of interest are ICT, entrepreneurship, internationalization, and social innovation. He has a bachelor's degree in business management and a master's degree in services engineering and management. So I'm looking forward to his lecture and may hand over the screen now for his lecture. Please give me a few moments to do so. Francisco, can you hear me? Yes, that's perfect.
Hello, Christine, and good evening, good afternoon, everyone. And thank you very much, Christine, for this kind introduction. So let's start the lecture today. As Christine has mentioned, it is going to be focused in marketing strategies. So we're going to tackle specifically the importance of labeling and trust in the supply value chain, focusing also in some examples of gluten-free products and what could be the importance of marketing strategies for these gluten-free organizations. So the presentation is going to be divided in 4 parts. The first one will focus on the presentation of the Trafun project, for which this PowerPoint was developed, and I will explain further on what is the context of this project within the European Food STA. Then I will provide a short presentation of SPI, which is the company I represent, and just for you to have an idea of the work we develop also in this area, but at the international level. And then we will focus on the third part, the core of the presentation, which will be the importance of marketing strategies. So in particular, we'll focus first on what is the idea, the product and service, and the market, and the importance of this, of having these concepts in mind for better using the supply value chains. Then we will move for the 7 P's of marketing, the concept. Then to the description of what is a supply chain and why it is relevant for this topic. And finally, we will describe what is labeling and trust, specifically on some issues and the importance that this labeling and trust has for an organization and for the strategy of an organization. Of course, in these two last topics, the supply chain and the labeling and trust, we will focus on examples related with gluten-free products. And finally, we will give an example of a good practice of an organization that has focused its marketing strategies for gluten-free products. So starting with the presentation of Trafun. As mentioned, Trafun is a project from the 7th framework contract of the European Commission, FP7, and it focuses on traditional food network to improve the transfer of knowledge for innovation. This project had a duration of 36 months. It ended in October last year, and has addressed, its main objective is to address SMEs from the sector of 4 product groups, which are displayed in the slides. So grain, vegetables and mushrooms, sweet fruits and olives, and also fish. The project consists of a network of different research on 3 components. First, research institutions. At the middle level, the technology transfer agencies. And at the last level, the SMEs associations. So the aim of the project is to secure knowledge transfer and implement already existing innovations regarding traditional foods to SMEs. So it's not to develop new knowledge, but also use the knowledge that already exists and transfer it to the SMEs, improving the quality, safety, and the environmental performance of food products. So 3 main components from the project. This project had a total of 29 partners that were from 14 different European countries. SPI is one of the partners of this project. It was composed by 9 universities, 9 research institutions, 5 technology transfer agencies, 5 SME associations, and 1 European Food Industry Association. So here we have the list of partners. As said, SPI is one of the partners. This project was led by the University of Hohenheim in Germany, and it has several relevant institutions from all over Europe, so covering the different regions of Europe. In terms of its end results, so the project had several products and deliverables. It is worth mentioning some of them. So first, an inventory of needs of SMEs in traditional food sectors was developed. This was based in interviews and questionnaires. We also developed 55 training workshops in 13 European countries. We developed a strategic research and innovation agenda that was given to the European Commission so that we can better explain what are the needs of SMEs in this area. And as mentioned in the slide, we also developed, among other products, a consumer-oriented book that contains information from traditional dishes from the different Trafun categories. All of these products are available in the Trafun website that you can see in the slide. These are available in English, German, and French. It also has an information shop on the different sectors that you can find more information on the experts, on the organizations that compose this sector among Europe, and to see all enable stakeholders to access this information and what was gathered by the TREFUND project and the TREFUND network. As mentioned, the project has ended in October, but it did not end, so the products that were developed during the project are being disseminated and used in other projects and through other associations. That is the case of the European Food STA project that has been using some of the content that we have developed. In this case, this webinar, for example, that we have developed in the TREFUND project for disseminating the knowledge through other organizations. Now passing to the presentation of SPI, that is a company that I represent. Just some two brief slides. As mentioned by Christine, I work at SPI for more than 5 years. I have been involved in international projects, namely from the European Commission, Horizon 2020, FP7 projects, and other tenders from the European Commission, related with several regions. SPI was a company created in 1996. Our headquarters are based in Porto, where I'm also based. We have several offices in Europe, in Spain, an association in Brussels through the European Business and Innovation Center network. We have offices in China since 1999, offices in the US, in California and Washington, also since 1999, and an office in Singapore. Besides the physical offices, we also have projects in several places in the world, and with more focus in Brazil, for example, in Angola or Mozambique, and also in Latin America, where we have a lot of incidents in projects. SPI is a private consultancy company. It is focused in three main areas. So the first is focused in innovation, to develop innovation projects in Europe and also around the world. Science and technology, namely through the Horizon 2020 projects of the European Commission, and also we develop work for urbanization related projects through our network of territory and the different municipalities that SPI is acquainted with. Now passing on to the presentation of the marketing strategies and the importance of these marketing strategies to develop a product, and also for the organizations to fit under the different supply chains and better use the supply chains. So the first part will focus on the idea and the product, how this idea can then transform into a product and service and then serve the market. So an idea as a whole, how is it going to be transformed into a product or service that is seen by the market as relevant? Thinking in terms of marketing, these products could be defined in two classes. First, the market pull, and second, the product push. So the market pull relates with a result that has been developed by research and development departments or agencies within the company, or independent research and development departments in response to a specific market need. So it is the market that is requesting this product. On the other hand, the product push is related with a new invention that through research and development or productions or sales enters the market without considering what the market needs. So it relates to new inventions or forms of developing a specific application. Having this in mind, when an organization, and specifically a company, thinks of developing a new product, it has to think on how to differentiate itself from its competitors and how to establish a well-positioned mindset in the minds of the consumers. So for this, it is important to have a proper business model and value proposition, and provide the question, why should someone buy my product? So it is important to clearly define the business model and value proposition of the company, because position the product into the market and passing an idea to the consumer. So the question should be asked, how is my product different than the others that exist in the market? And even if the product is not different, how can we provide a different image in the mind of the consumer? So from that, we pass to the importance of understanding the market and analyzing the market. It is relevant from a marketing point of view and from the organization's point of view to properly describe what is happening in its surroundings, in its market. So to describe the current situation, understanding what are the problems that exist and how these problems can be overcome. So the objective is to understand how the market works and what scenarios exist for the company and what the company needs to be prepared to do in case these problems arise. So the first point focuses on analyzing the surroundings and the environment of the company. That is, and these surroundings and this analysis can be done through the pest analysis. The pest analysis is basically an external analysis that assesses the political, the economic, the social and cultural and technological context of the company. So what is happening at its macro level, so that analyzing those different characteristics can provide a better understanding of the market for the company, and also it will help the company to position itself in a proper way for the consumers. On the other hand, it's important to determine the current size and potential of the company. So this is something internal that organizations should assess, thinking, and it is related with this third point on what is the segment of the market. That is, where is my company positioned at the market level? What is our share in the market? What divisions we can make, and what potential markets we can create or enter. For this, it is important, and this is related with my next slide, to understand the product life cycle and where each product fits in these categories. So this is a straightforward definition in market and economics of the four steps at the product life cycle. So there is first the introduction phase, second the growth phase, third the maturity, and then after the maturity the decline. In terms of the introduction, this is the phase where it is most expensive for a company for launching a new product. So at this point, the size of the market is still small. The company has low sales. They are increasing, but on the other hand, of course, there are a lot of costs associated with launching the product in research and development, with testing the market, etc. The second stage relates with the growth stage, which is characterized by a strong growth in sales and profits, and the company can start beneficiating from its economies of scale to increase its sales. At the third stage, we have the maturity level. So during the maturity stage, the product is already established, and the aim of the company is to maintain this market share through time, although it is not growing, it is to maintain and let it not decrease as much as possible. The fourth and last stage is concerns the declining phase of the product, and where the market starts shrinking and going down, and the market is becoming saturated because the majority of the clients already know the product. The majority of the clients in the market already purchased the product, or they are switching to another product. So this stage is inevitable, but companies need to be able to reinvent their product, either by switching to a less expensive production area, so that the product price could decrease. Taking this into consideration, the four phases of the product life cycle, it is also important to characterize the 7 P's of marketing and to have this in mind when setting a product to the market. So the 7 P's of marketing are the product, the price, the promotion, the place, the packaging, the positioning, and the people. So all these 7 definitions and P's of marketing should be taken into consideration for positioning the product in the marketplace and for passing information that is useful for the potential client. So now in the presentation I will go from each point and each P so that you can get a better overview on what should be considered in each of the marketing P's. So the first is related with the product. So here what the question is, if the current product or services are appropriate to the market. So there is a need from the company to question itself if the product is in fact suitable for what the market is expecting, because the product should fit the consumers, should fit what the consumers want, and should work on complying with what the consumers expect. So there should be a constant revision if the product is well positioned in the minds of the consumers. The second P, of course, is related with the price. So companies need to continually examine and evaluate if the prices of the products and services are appropriate to the market. At some point in time, and when positioning the products, it is needed to lower the prices. In other times, it is needed to raise the prices. This is related with competition, with also the mindset of the consumers that changes over time. So the price, it needs to be constantly readapted to the market situation and to the ecosystem of the market. Of course, the product should represent a good value for money. So the price should be in line with what the value for money it represents as a product for the consumers. So it is also important to have in mind that consumers are usually happy to pay a little more for something that works really well. So that products that are seen as really valuable should also be associated with high prices, and the other way around. So if the product has a high price, it should be associated by the consumers to be a very, very valuable product in the market. The third point is related with the promotion that is done to the product or service. So promotion should be adapted and should be present in all the product life cycle. So small changes in how the product is promoted and how the product is sold can lead to major changes in the results And the advertising here plays a very important role on the way that the potential consumers see the product and now they look at the product and have that need of buying the product. So here we are talking about advertising, sales promotion, personal selling, social media, etc. So these types of tools should be used and put into practice by the organization in order to pass the right message to the consumers. The fourth point is related with the place. Here, of course, besides the product itself and its price, the place where the product is sold is also of great importance to the market and to the consumer, because a store, if we are talking about a convenience store or an e-commerce, and what is the reputation that that place has in the mind of the consumer, has a great preponderance on the consumer's thought of buying or not buying that product. So it is important to understand where that product is distributed and if the stores and channels are in line with our strategy and our marketing strategy for that product. The fifth element is related with the packaging. So this is the one of the most important things to take into consideration when marketing the products. So the thought here should be on that the company needs to take into consideration everything that the consumer sees from the first moment of contact all the way to the purchasing process. So this is not just the packaging itself of the product or service, but everything that goes around the process between the consumer seeing the first time the product and then going to purchase it. So every detail in this process counts and needs to be constantly improved over time, because it can lead to completely different reactions from the customers, and having in mind the packaging could have good repercussions in terms of sales of the product or service. Then the 6P is related with the positioning. So here the positioning, when we talk about positioning in the 7 Ps of marketing, we are talking about how the product is seen by the consumers, in what category do the consumers position the product, and where do they see it as valuable in their minds. So here it is a matter of better passing the message to the consumers in order for us to position the product where we want in the minds of the consumer. So a specific advertise or the packaging, of course, all these 7 Ps are related with each other and they are important for the marketing strategy of the company. But how all of these comes in the minds of the consumers at the end. So this is critical to getting competitive advantage in the marketplace. Then the final P of this marketing mix is the people. So to be successful, the company needs to think of inside its business and outside what people are involving and are involved in the process of the product, of developing the product and of developing its marketing strategies. So it is important for the organization to exactly think who is going to carry out each task and the responsibility of each person within the company. And this will, of course, influence its marketing strategies and its activities throughout time. After presenting, so as said, all these 7 Ps are relevant, they are connected to each other, and all of them should be taken into consideration when developing the marketing strategies. With this in mind, it is also important to understand the concept of supply chain and how the supply chain as a whole influences the marketing of the product and also the way that the consumers see the product. So here at the beginning there is a definition of supply chain. So supply chain is a system of organizations, people, activities, information and resources that are involved in moving a product or service from the supplier to the consumers. So this involves all the process that comes from the raw materials until the consumer. Of course, an organization or company, even and specifically when they are small and medium companies, they are not involved in all the process of the supply chain. So there needs to be connection between the different actors of the supply chains and the products that they use and the types of processes that they use. And this is very important also for the matter of gluten-free products that I will explain further on. So here we have a definition of the different supply chain stages and the management of this supply chain. So it includes, as mentioned, every company or organization or process that is in contact with the particular product that we are developing. So this includes companies from manufacturing parts, assembly, delivering, and selling the product itself. And as mentioned, this is important for gluten-free products. So because to have credibility in terms of supporting gluten-free products, companies must be able to control what type of processes exist for having gluten-free processes and materials throughout and in every step of the value chain. That is, the suppliers must be able to produce, deliver, and document what gluten-free products they are using from the different stages. So it is important to involve some assessing criteria and processes for the company to evaluate if the other actors in the supply chain are using processes that are related with gluten-free products throughout the whole supply chain process. This means testing, having certificates, having a pre-shipping verification program so that everything that comes from one place to the other is checked and evaluated so that it complies with the criteria and with gluten-free claims that the companies are needed. So specifically to the value chain, to the supply chain, as mentioning, there are and related specifically with gluten-free claims, there is the question of the labeling and trust. So labeling and trust, it includes several parts that I will explain in this and in the further slides. So first, it is important to mention the product packaging, and this is also related with the 7 P's of marketing that I talked just before. So the packaging, it goes beyond just being a marketing box. It also plays a key role in presenting the brand and the company. So it affects directly the sales. At the same time, it has a part of traceability because it leads you to understand what components and where that packaging is coming from and where that product is coming from in the supply chain. In order to optimize all these factors and to provide larger responsibility, because through packaging and through labeling we can know what type of components the product has, if we are talking about gluten-free food products, we can understand and have the information on the different components of the product. And this brings some responsibility to all the companies in the supply chain that have been involved in producing that product. So labeling is also a solution, a good solution to understanding the life cycle of the product. Related also, and through the packaging and labeling, another important point is for enhancing the product traceability, to understand how it was transported, how it was kept, how it was manufactured, and all the process since the picking of the raw materials until it goes to the consumer. So it is important, and specifically on the food sector, the traceability is a very important aspect that should be controlled throughout the whole supply chain. So it is important to maintain the control of the product through the chain, and so that all the processes are optimized throughout the different stages. As mentioned before, and specifically with the case of gluten-free products, it is important for a company that is selling gluten-free products to have a trustful relation with the different actors of the supply chain, because it can provide, because it is important for the product to have been assessed by the different stages of the value chain. That is, a gluten-free product should pass through the same, should not pass through the same processes as other products that are not gluten-free, for example. So there should be an assessment process from the companies so that they could see if in all the stages of the supply chain there has been a control and of those processes. In this sense, trust and establishing trust among the partners is very important. This is also in line with the traceability aspect that was just mentioned in the previous slide. So this evolves, trust in the supply chain evolves based upon commonalities, of course, and among the partners, and of course it takes time, and trust to be built is not an easy thing. It takes time, and it takes constant relations with the different partners that are established in the supply chain. So there should be verification through certification or internal verification testing to also see if the processes are being held correctly throughout the whole chain. As mentioned, there is a need also, and very important for the gluten-free products, to credibly support these gluten-free claims. That is, companies must control where gluten is at in every step of the supply chain. And this could be, as mentioned in this slide that I'm just presenting, this could involve assessment of processes and ingredients, supplier certification, monitoring programs, pre-shipment verification, and certificates of authenticity, because it is needed to understand where the gluten is at throughout the chain, if it is existing, and if it is, how this could be overcome over time. So this involves all the processes from warehousing to distribution, and for the process of putting the product together and of selling it in the stores. Going more deep into the regulation, the labeling of the gluten-free products. So at the European level, there is a commission regulation on the number 41 from 2009 that it includes the composition and labeling of food that is aimed at people that are intolerant to gluten. So in order for a product to use the term gluten-free on the label, the food must meet some specific requirements, but all the requirements that are in this regulation. One of the requirements is that it includes 20 parts per million of gluten, so it can include 20 parts per million of gluten, and the product could also be claimed as free of gluten. This is an important point and is related with my next slide. And to better understand the realities of the market level in different places in the world, because there are some regions or areas that have more than one level of gluten-free claim. So as said, in Europe, foods and companies that use the label that it contains less than 100 particles per million of gluten, it can contain the term very low gluten. And if we look to Australia and New Zealand, this is double of the amount. So if a food contains less than 200 parts per million of gluten, it can also be labeled as low gluten. So it is relevant to understand what certificates and what definitions and rules apply to every country and for the different countries, so that we can understand that different countries have different ways of labeling and of defining the different components of the food. That table, for example, is one example of the Food Drug Administration of the United States on foods that can and cannot use gluten-free in their label. Here we have some labeling regulation on what should be used for gluten-free products, also from different regions and different labels that can be used. So it is important to associate a label with that is the customers associate a label with a different product, and this also plays a role in their marketing strategy because they see it as a gluten-free product and they associate it straight away with a gluten-free product. In terms of wrapping up what these last 4 or 5 slides related with the gluten-free labeling. So it is relevant, as mentioned, to understand what gluten-free means in different regions and at the food industry level, and also what the customers see as gluten-free products and how the products can adapt to this definition. So a product to use this gluten-free term must, of course, comply with all the legal requirements. There is also cultural and social understanding, although that gluten-based products are healthier, so there is also a bigger demand in gluten-free products at the market level, and it is important to understand that it is a niche of market. It's a very niche market, but it is growing rapidly, and the demand is actually increasing in these types of products, which could be an opportunity also for some food organizations. In this sense, I will just now, to finalize this presentation, to give an example of a very well-known company, this car that was founded in 1922, with the goal of providing products that have an healthier component and fruit products that have an healthier component. This case is relevant because in 1981, so more than 30 years ago, the company launched its line of gluten-free products, and at the time there was not so much demand, or at least it was not so well known, these types of products, and the company focused on this at the time in 1981, and now over the years it has become Italy's gluten-free market leader in this category. So it is, with all those years of experience, the company is able now to provide one of the highest safety standards in manufacturing of its products. That is, it can control the whole process of the supply chain, making sure that all the standards are complied and all the standards are accepted throughout the supply chain. This last slide provides a short quote on quality, and that is important to understand and also to frame the presentation as a whole. So SCAR says that the quality is not simply based on a monitored raw ingredient chain. It has to be aware of every single stage of the production process, and this should be monitored throughout the process. And it is, of course, related with all that I just said on the marketing strategies at the supply chain level. Because the industrial processes are based on complex production techniques, and SCAR has developed this. So there is, besides this, SCAR has built strong relations with the business associates and partners that are part of the value chain. As mentioned, trust is a very important component for these marketing strategies, and it led SCAR through this strategy of involving all the partners and all the organizations that compose the supply chain. The SCAR is now capable of being the market leader in gluten-free products in Italy. So with this last example, I am now open to questions from the audience. I also ask Christine to support me on this process as she is managing the session, and I am of course available to answer every question that may arise, and my email is available, I believe, through Christine if you have any further question regarding not just the topic of this webinar, but also the draft room project and other projects that SPI is involved in, particularly with the food sector.
Thank you, Francisco, for your very comprehensive lecture. It seems that you transferred so much knowledge that there is no question open. So the attendees are, as it seems, very content. Just let me add some comments from the Austrian side. It's all about the gluten-free, so lactose-free. Those products are really very interesting for consumers nowadays, because it's not only for health reasons that somebody who really has to avoid lactose and gluten do consume those products, but it's also for, let's say, normal consumers who are interested in these free from products, just because of this question of trust. Because consumers are thinking about those products as being thoroughly examined and designed properly for a healthy diet, and they're really a big market in Austria, and it's still growing. Yes, I just checking the list of attendees if there is anybody now coming up with a question. There is still none, so I may thank you, Francisco, for your speech. Thank you very much. It was highly interesting, and to get back to our homepage, foods-star. Here under events, you can find webinars, and just like today's webinar will be published here with the recording and presentation, you can find the past webinars already with recordings and presentations. Back to this list, and I hope you can find information you're looking for here. So I may wish you a good afternoon. Thank you again, Francisco. Have a nice evening, have a nice day. And
Thank you.
I may wish everybody a nice holiday tomorrow for everybody who has one. In Austria, it is a holiday tomorrow. So best wishes and have a nice summer.
Thank you very much, Christine. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, Francisco.